The galaxy was never quiet. For 300 years, a signal had been traveling through space, bouncing from star to star, reaching every corner of the known universe. The Galactic Concord, a group of 12,000 alien species, had created this signal. They called it the welcome signal. It was a simple message made of numbers and patterns. Any intelligent species could understand it. The message said, "You are not alone. We are here. Come find us." Every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy had received this signal. When they heard it, they decoded it, understood it, and sent back a humble reply. They asked for permission to join the Concord. They showed respect. They waited to be accepted. This was how things worked. This was the rule. For 50,000 years, no species had ever done anything different. But there was one small planet, spinning around an ordinary yellow star, that never heard the signal at all. Earth sat in a strange pocket of space. A magnetic anomaly in the solar system absorbed the welcome signal's frequency. The message passed by Earth like a whisper in a hurricane. The humans below never knew it existed. The Conquered noticed Earth. They watched the humans build cities, fight wars, and slowly develop technology. But without receiving the signal, humans were classified as a failed candidate. The Conquered believed they would destroy themselves before they ever mattered. The aliens were wrong. Was 29 years old when she first decided that the universe owed humanity an answer. She worked at a radio astronomy station in South Korea. Every night, she sat in front of glowing screens, listening to the sounds of space. Most people heard nothing but static, heard possibility. Her colleague thought she was wasting her time. He was a practical man who believed in things he could touch and measure. He sat across from her in the small control room, eating noodles from a plastic container. 5 years, he said, slurping loudly. 5 years you have been listening. What have you found? Did not look away from her screen. Nothing yet. Nothing ever, said. The universe is empty, accept it. She finally turned to face him. Her eyes were tired but bright. Do you really believe that? With all those stars, all those planets, you think we are the only ones? Shrugged, maybe we are. Maybe that is why no one answers. Turned back to her screen. The static hissed and crackled, same as always. But somewhere deep in her chest, she felt something that would not go away. It was not hope exactly. It was stubbornness. Humans had been looking at the stars for thousands of years. They had built telescopes and sent probes and aimed radio dishes at the sky. They had asked the same question over and over again. Is anyone out there? The silence was the only reply. But silence, thought, was not the same as absence. Maybe the universe was full of life. Maybe everyone was talking, just not to Earth. Maybe humanity had been left out of a conversation they did not even know existed. That thought made her angry. If no one is calling us, she said quietly, then maybe we should be the ones to call. Laughed, call who? The empty void. Someone will hear. And what will you say? Hello, we are humans, please be our friends. Smiled, but there was no humor in it. No, I will say something they cannot ignore. That night after went home, stayed at her station. She pulled up old files and research papers. She read about every attempt humanity had made to contact alien life. The Arecibo message, the Voyager golden records, the random radio signals sent into space with no real plan. All of them were polite. All of them were careful. All of them were easy to miss. Did not want to be polite anymore. She started writing. At first it was just notes and ideas, but slowly a plan took shape. What if humanity did not send a greeting? What if they sent something bigger? What if they showed the universe exactly who they were, without apology, without fear? The next morning she called an old professor who had connections in the government. She told him her idea. He told her she was crazy. She told him she knew. 3 months later, she stood in front of a committee of scientists and military officials. They looked at her like she was a child asking for the moon. But she did not care. She had spent her whole life being underestimated. She had learned to use it. The universe has been silent, she told them. But maybe that is because we have been too quiet. I want to change that. I want to build something that will make the galaxy notice us, not a whisper, a shout. One man at the table, an older admiral named, leaned forward. His face was lined with years of service and hard decisions. And if something shouts back, what then? Met his eyes without flinching. Then at least we will know we are not alone, and they will know we are not afraid. The room was silent, waited. She had done everything she could. The rest was out of her hands. Admiral smiled slowly. It was the smile of a man who had spent his whole life waiting for someone brave enough to take a risk. "Tell me more," he said. And humanity's first true message to the stars began to take shape. 10 years passed. Was no longer a young astronomer listening to static in a small room. She was the director of the most ambitious project in human history. They called it Echo 1. The world had changed around her. Countries that once fought each other now worked together. Scientists from Korea, America, China, India, and dozens of other nations shared ideas and resources. Building Echo 1 required everyone. It required the whole planet. Admiral had become her strongest supporter. He was old now, walking with a cane, but his mind was sharp as ever. He had spent decades convincing governments to fund the project. He had argued with presidents and prime ministers. He had made promises and threats. Whatever it took, he did it. "We have been polite long enough," he told the United Nations Assembly. "We have sent little messages into space like children leaving notes for fairies. And what did we get? Nothing. Silence. The universe does not care about polite. It is time to be loud." Some people were afraid. They said humanity should stay hidden. They said attracting attention could bring danger. What if aliens came and destroyed Earth? What if the universe was full of predators? Understood their fear, but she also understood something else. Hiding was not living. Waiting was not hopping. Humanity had spent its entire existence looking up at the stars and wondering. She was tired of wondering. Echo 1 was not a single machine. It was a network of giant amplifiers placed in orbit around Earth. 37 stations, connected by satellites, powered by the sun itself. Together, they could send a signal so powerful that it would reach 17 star systems in a single pulse. Nothing like it had ever been built before. But the real genius was not the power. It was what they planned to send. Doctor was the lead programmer. She was a quiet woman who rarely spoke in meetings, but when she did, everyone listened. She had spent 8 years designing the content of the signal. It was not a simple greeting. It was not a math equation or a map of Earth. It was something far more complicated. "Other species will have their own math," explained to one night in the control center. "They will have their own science, their own logic. These things are universal, but what they will not have is us. Our music, our art, our history, our pain and joy, and everything in between." She pulled up her work on the main screen. Years of human culture compressed into data. There was music from every era, from ancient drums to modern symphonies. There was art from cave paintings to digital masterpieces. There was footage of wars and peace treaties, of births and funerals, of people laughing and crying and simply living. "We are showing them everything," said. "The good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly. If they want to know who we are, they will see the truth." Stared at the screen. It was overwhelming. All of human history ready to be thrown into the void. And if they do not like what they see, smiled softly, then at least they will know we were real. We were not pretending to be something perfect. We were just human. The launch day came on a cold December morning. Stood in the main control room surrounded by her team. Was there, older now, his hair gray at the edges. He had stopped doubting her years ago. Now he believed. Admiral sat in a chair nearby, watching the screens with quiet pride. He had fought so hard for this moment. Hoped he understood how much his support had meant. Stood at her console, fingers ready. The amplifiers were aligned. The signal was loaded. Everything was ready. "On your order, Director," someone said. Looked around the room. These were the people who had given everything for this dream. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, dreamers. They had all believed when the world told them they were fools. She thought about all the nights she had spent listening to static, all the years of silence, all the times she had wondered if anyone was out there. Now they would find out. "Send it," she said. "Press the button." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The screens flickered. Numbers scrolled across displays. Then slowly, a wave of data began to flow outward from Earth. It moved at the speed of light, carrying everything humanity had ever been into the darkness. Put a hand on shoulder. "We actually did it." "No," she said, watching the signal disappear into space. "We just started." Somewhere, 47 hours away an ancient civilization was about to receive a message they had never expected. They had been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for the primitive humans to hear their welcome signal and come begging for acceptance. Instead, they received a shout. It was loud, it was raw, it was unapologetic. And it changed everything. In the great halls of the Galactic Concord, alarms began to sound. Diplomats and leaders rushed to their stations. They had protocols for everything. First contact, hostile encounters, natural disasters. They had no protocol for a species that had never received their invitation, but sent one of their own instead. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Conquered did not know what to do. And on Earth finally allowed herself to smile. The universe had been silent for too long. Now it was humanity's turn to speak. The Galactic Conquered had existed for 50,000 years. In that time, they had welcomed 12,000 species into their alliance. They had ended wars that lasted centuries. They had built stations the size of planets and mapped every corner of the known galaxy. They believed they had seen everything. They were wrong. The council chamber was the largest structure ever built by intelligent life. It floated in the empty space between 3 star systems, a sphere of living metal and crystal that could hold millions of beings. Today, it held only the High Council, 12 representatives from the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had gathered for an emergency meeting. This had not happened in 3,000 years. Envoy Al stood at the center of the chamber. His species communicated through patterns of light that rippled across their skin. Right now, those patterns showed deep concern. He was ancient, even by Conquered standards. He had served as a diplomat for longer than most civilizations existed. He had seen young species rise and fall. He had welcomed hundreds of them into the Conquered personally. But he had never seen anything like the human signal. "They did not receive the welcome signal," he reported to the council. "Our records confirm this. A magnetic anomaly in their solar system blocked our transmission. They have been completely isolated." "Then how did they know to contact us?" asked another council member, a being of pure energy that flickered like a star. "They did not," Al said. "They were not trying to reach us specifically. They were trying to reach anyone, everyone. They broadcast their signal in all directions to every star system within range. They had no idea we existed." The chamber fell silent. This was difficult to process. Every species in the Conquered had followed the same path. They received the welcome signal, decoded it, and sent a humble reply. They asked for permission to join. They showed respect for the ancient civilizations that came before them. The humans had done none of this. "What does the signal contain?" asked a council member whose species resembled giant floating jellyfish. Al hesitated. "Everything." "Explain." "They sent their entire civilization. Music, art, history, science. Records of their wars and their peace. Images of their people being born and dying. Footage of violence and kindness and everything between. It is overwhelming. Our analysts estimate it would take 300 years to fully process all the data." "Why would they send such things?" the jellyfish being asked. "This is not how first contact works. There are protocols, procedures." "They do not know our protocols," Al said. "They created their own. They were not asking for permission to speak. They were simply speaking." Another council member, an insect-like creature with 1,000 eyes, leaned forward. "They are primitive. They have no faster-than-light travel, no advanced weapons. They pose no threat to us." Al's light pattern shifted to deep red, a sign of disagreement. "They pose every threat, not because of what they can do now, but because of what they represent." "Explain," the council demanded. Al moved to the center of the chamber. His light grew brighter. "For 50,000 years, the welcome signal has been our greatest tool. It tells young species that we are here, that we are powerful, that we can offer them a place in something greater than themselves. Every species that receives it comes to us with respect. They wait for our approval. They accept our rules." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The humans never heard our signal. They do not know our rules, and yet they found a way to make themselves known. They did not wait for us. They did not ask for permission. They shouted into the void and demanded that someone answer." "So they are arrogant," the insect being said. "Arrogance is not new." "It is not arrogance," Al replied. "It is something else, something more dangerous." "What?" "Independence." The word hung in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. "Think about what this means," Al continued. "Every species in the conquered believes they needed us. They believe we discovered them, welcomed them, gave them a place in the galaxy. But the humans prove that is not true. A species can develop alone. They can reach out on their own terms. They can demand attention without ever receiving our invitation. If others learn of this," the energy being said slowly, "they may wonder why they ever needed us at all." "Exactly." Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other. For the first time they were uncertain. "What do you recommend?" the jellyfish being finally asked. Al dimmed his light, thinking carefully. "We have 3 options. First, we ignore them. They are primitive. They cannot reach us. We wait and see what happens. And if they continue to broadcast, if their signal reaches other young species outside our influence, then we lose control of the message," Al admitted. "Other species may see the humans as proof that the conquered is not necessary." "Second option," the insect being asked. "We silence them. Their planet is vulnerable. A single ship could end their civilization before they even know we exist." Several council members flickered with interest. It was a clean solution, simple. "And the third option?" someone asked. Al's pattern shifted to gold, the color of serious purpose. "We go to them, not to welcome them, not to destroy them. We go to evaluate them, to understand what they are, and then we decide what they mean for the future of the galaxy." The council debated for 6 rotations. They argued and calculated and considered every possibility. In the end, they chose the third option. For the first time in 3,000 years, the conquered would send an envoy to a species that had never asked for one. Al would go himself. He only hoped he was ready for what he would find. The ship appeared without warning on a Tuesday morning. One moment the sky was clear. The next moment something blocked the sun. People stopped in the streets and looked up. They saw a shape that their minds struggled to understand. It was massive, bigger than any city, bigger than any mountain. It hung in the sky like a dark moon, silent and terrible. Every phone on Earth buzzed with emergency alerts. Every television showed the same image. Every radio station stopped their music and spoke the same words. "We are not alone." Panic spread quickly. In some cities, people ran. In others, they gathered in churches and temples to pray. Military forces around the world activated. Fighter jets scrambled. Missiles were prepared. Governments that had been enemies for decades called each other and asked the same question: "What do we do?" For 6 hours, the ship did nothing. It simply hung in the sky, waiting. Then it spoke. The message came through every electronic device on the planet. Televisions, phones, radios, computers. Even old devices that had not worked in years suddenly flickered to life. The message was in every language humanity had ever spoken. Korean, English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Swahili, and thousands more. The words were simple. We have heard you, explain yourselves. The world exploded into chaos. In the United Nations building in New York, leaders argued about what to say. Some wanted to apologize. They said humanity should beg for mercy, show weakness, hope the aliens would be kind. Others wanted to threaten. They said humanity should show strength, warn the aliens that Earth would fight. Watch the arguments from a corner of the room. She was 53 years old now. Her hair had streaks of gray. Her face had lines from years of stress and hard work, but her eyes were the same as they had been in that small radio station in, sharp, determined, stubborn. Stood beside her. Admiral was there too, though he needed a wheelchair now, sat quietly watching the politicians fight. They will never agree, said quietly. They are too afraid. Fear makes people stupid, said. His voice was weak, but his words were strong. They want to control something they cannot control. They want a plan for something no plan can prepare for. Watched the arguing leaders. They were still debating the first sentence of their response. At this rate, they would take months to decide. The alien ship would not wait that long. She made a decision. Stay here, she told her team. Then she walked toward the transmission center at the back of the room. A security guard tried to stop her. Ma'am, this area is restricted. I am the director of Echo 1, said. I started this conversation. I am going to continue it. Before the guard could respond, wheeled forward. Let her through. That is an order. The guard hesitated, had no official authority here, but something in his voice, something in the way he walked, made the guard step aside. Sat down at the transmission console. The room fell quiet as people realized what was happening. A diplomat rushed toward her. You cannot do this. There are procedures. We need to discuss. We have discussed enough, said. She activated the transmitter. The alien ship was listening. Every ear on Earth was listening, took a breath and spoke. You asked us to explain ourselves. Here is our explanation. The room was dead silent. We are human. We have lived on this world for 300,000 years. We started as animals who lived in caves and feared the darkness. We learned to make fire. We learned to make tools. We learned to make war. She paused, letting the words carry into space. We have done terrible things. We have killed each other over land and resources and ideas. We have built empires and watched them fall. We have created weapons that could destroy our own world. We are not perfect. We have never claimed to be. In the council chambers of the conquered ship, Al listened. His patterns flickered with confusion. This was not what he expected. Species usually begged. They apologized. They promised to be good. Continued. But we have also done beautiful things. We have created music that makes people cry. We have painted pictures of the world as we dream it could be. We have written stories about heroes and monsters and everything between. We have loved and lost and loved again. We have never stopped hopping, even when hope seemed foolish. She leaned closer to the microphone. You have been watching us. You have seen our violence and our chaos, but you have also seen our courage. You have seen a species that never received your invitation, never knew you existed, and still refused to be silent. We shouted into the dark because that is who we are. We could not help it. We would not help it. Outside the building, millions of people watched on screens. They heard their director speak for all of them. You did not invite us. We did not ask for permission. We are here. We exist. And we will not apologize for making ourselves known. Took one final breath. You asked us to explain ourselves. There is our explanation. Now I have a question for you. What are you going to do about it? She released the transmitter button. The world waited. 3 hours passed in complete silence. The alien ship gave no response. People began to wonder if had made a terrible mistake. Maybe she had angered them. Maybe the aliens were preparing to attack. Then slowly, the ship began to move. It descended from the sky, lowering toward the surface of the earth. It moved with impossible grace, a mountain floating on air. It came to rest outside Seoul, covering the horizon like a wall of shadow. A door opened. Light poured out, and something ancient stepped forward to meet humanity face to face. Al had met thousands of species in his long life. He had seen beings made of crystal and creatures that swam through the vacuum of space. He had spoken with minds so vast they could think 1,000 thoughts at once. He believed he understood what intelligent life looked like. Walking down the ramp of his ship, he realized he understood nothing. The landing zone was chaos. Military vehicles surrounded the area. Soldiers with weapons pointed at him from every direction. Helicopters circled overhead. Cameras broadcast everything to billions of watching eyes. But in the middle of it all, directly in front of his ship, stood a single human woman. She had a folding chair, a small table, a metal container that steamed in the cold air. She sat there as if she was waiting for a friend at a cafe, not meeting an alien being who could destroy her world. Al stopped. His patterns flickered with confusion. "You are the one who spoke," he said. His voice came through a translation device, turning his light patterns into human words. "The one who said you would not apologize." Stood up slowly. She was shorter than he expected, older than the images in the human signal had shown, but her eyes held something he recognized. It was the look of someone who had stopped being afraid a long time ago. "You took your time," she said. "I made tea. It is probably cold now." Al did not know what tea was. He did not know why this human was acting so calm. Every other species he had met in this situation had trembled. They had begged. They had promised anything to survive. "You are not afraid," he said. It was not a question. Tilted her head. "Afraid? We have been waiting for this moment for centuries. We built telescopes to look for you. We sent probes into the dark hopping to find you. We shouted into the void praying someone would answer. Now you are here." She spread her hands. "Why would I be afraid of something I have wanted my whole life?" "We could destroy your world," Al said. "One ship, one command, everything you have built would end." "Yes," agreed. "You could, but you have not. You came down here instead. You walked out to meet me. That tells me something." "What does it tell you?" Smiled. It was not a fearful smile or a fake one. It was the smile of someone who had figured something out. "It tells me you are curious. Your Concord has been running the galaxy for 50,000 years. Every species you meet follows the same pattern. They receive your signal, they come begging, you let them in. It must be very boring." Al's pattern shifted. She was not wrong. "Then we came along," continued. "We never heard your signal. We did not know you existed. And instead of staying quiet like good little primitives, we screamed at the universe until you had to notice us. I think that scared you. Not because we are dangerous, but because we are different." Behind her, more humans were arriving, moving slowly with age, holding a tablet with years of data. Admiral in his wheelchair pushed by a young soldier. They stood together, watching. "In all your thousands of years," said, "have you ever met a species that did not wait to be invited? One that made their own introduction without permission?" Al was silent for a long moment. Then his patterns shifted to something had never seen before. Later, she would learn it meant respect. "No," he admitted, "never." "Then let me tell you something about humans," said. She stepped closer to the ancient alien, close enough to see the light rippling across his skin. "We do not wait. We do not ask permission. When the universe gave us silence, we refused to accept it. We are stubborn and loud and sometimes foolish. But we are also brave. We keep going even when there is no reason to hope. That is what it means to be human. She looked back at her team, at the soldiers and the cameras and the billions of people watching. We did not get your welcome signal. Maybe we were supposed to. Maybe it was fate or bad luck or just the universe being strange. But it does not matter, because we would have found you anyway. We would have kept shouting until someone heard. That is what we do. We refuse to be ignored. Al looked at the small human woman standing before him. In that moment, he understood something that changed everything he believed. The conquered had built their power on the idea that they were necessary. That young species needed guidance. That the welcome signal was a gift that made civilization possible. But the humans proved that was a lie. A species could develop alone. They could reach out on their own terms. They could demand a place in the galaxy without ever receiving permission. This was dangerous. This could destroy the conquered's authority. Or it could save them. Al made a decision that would change galactic history. I must send a report to my council, he said, but I will tell you now what I will say. The humans did not receive the welcome signal. They created their own. I recommend immediate elevation to full diplomatic status, not because you have earned it by our standards, but because you have proven you do not need our standards. You will join the galaxy on your own terms, or you will remake it trying. Either way, we cannot afford to make you enemies. Felt tears in her eyes, not sad tears. The tears of someone who had worked their whole life for something and finally seen it happen. Thank you, she said. Do not thank me, Al replied. You did this yourselves, that is the point. 1 year later, humanity took their seat on the Galactic Concord, not as a new member begging for acceptance, but as a founding voice in a reformed council. The old welcome signal was retired. In its place, the Concord broadcast something new, an open frequency that invited any species anywhere to speak for themselves. No permission needed, no approval required. They called it the Human Protocol. And at the site of the old radio station where everything began, they built a memorial. It was a simple stone with simple words. We did not wait for the universe to notice us. We made it impossible to look away. Visited it every year until she died, and every year she smiled. Because humanity had finally gotten an answer. And the answer was exactly what she had always believed. You do not need permission to exist. You do not need invitation to matter. You just need the courage to speak. And the stubbornness to keep speaking until someone listens.